again, thank you for joining us on our Thursday evening virtual community meetings. Very much appreciate you giving the time at the end of each month to listen to what we're doing and what we're up to. At a really high level, we would like to really point out our frontline and in the field employees, and that's a lot of what this discussion this evening is going to be about. Before that, I just want to do a couple of reminders listed here on the screen. You can see that we remind everyone calls to action for the organization for you to share with your networks, your family, your friends, to make sure that there's awareness brought to the organization, while at the same time getting engaged in any method and manner that they can and know how. Always willing to accept donations and partnerships and funding, here. So if we have some of those resources, please bring them back into the organization. Follow us on our social media handles. Sign up for our email distributions, our alerts, and our communication pieces. Get engaged in any way that you can, and also, again, support those that you're around within your network to do so with us as well. Jumping ahead a little bit to the slides. I'm not sure if you can see me. I can see the slides, but I don't know if you can see me. And if you can, that's awesome. I did want to, again, point out all of the things that our really strong teams out in the field are doing, and want to take a couple of minutes to identify the accomplishments that we've done out in the field for the organization. And for those of you that have just joined or are joining, if you can make sure that you're on mute so that the background noise isn't picked up or the recording doesn't pick it up, would be great. So first key item and key accomplishment that we had, it's actually an accomplishment overcoming a very tough obstacle, out in the field with PMC and Health and Social Services. As everyone knows, 4 of our properties were considered outbreak sites a few months ago, and the Department of Public Health had come on site to 4 of our properties and engaged in monitoring, testing, and surveillance. Approximately 2 weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, all of our properties were considered closed out for DPH, Department of Public Health surveillance and monitoring, because there was no confirmed cases at those sites, and we have not been alerted to any other confirmed cases in any of our properties or sites or communities since that time. So obviously we stay aware and alert. We're very diligent on our PPE, and want to make sure that we consider doing that, going forward. And for those of you that just joined on the phone, if you can make sure that you're on mute, there's someone else's voice that's coming in over the line. That would be great. The second major accomplishment across the organization in this last month is, again, taking a very collective approach to teamwork. Our real estate development team is in final phases of their construction on 7th Street. A lot of you are aware of the properties that are going up right now. They're called 649 Lofts and floor 401. On the bottom 3 floors of 649 Lofts is Joshua House. That's our partnership with LA Christian Health Center to bring a more larger, comprehensive medical center to the community, both our residents and the community at large. We're in final phases of construction, which means lease-up efforts have been engaged, and we are starting to bring in more potential residents into our environment. So that's great news. A lot of people out in the community, in the county, and even the state are noting this, because it's one of the first properties coming up as utilizing and leveraging the Triple H money, but also just the partnership of the Medical Center Joshua House. So we're very excited about it. We're very excited about it and proud of it on behalf of our organization, but we're also very excited and proud of it because of what we're bringing to the community at large. So that was the second accomplishment. It's been ongoing, but there's been a very heavy push these last 30 days. You'll hear a little bit more about it in the next couple of weeks. Don't want to steal any of the thunder, but real estate development also got an award from SCANT for a permanent supportive housing development of the year. So that was another key accomplishment that this team, this holistic team accomplished together. And the last, for those of you that are tracking and monitoring what's going on. We are celebrating the 25th year of our property management company, and we are doing so with a virtual gala. We had set up and scheduled a different type of fundraising for this Saturday about a year ago, but given, the very concerning year that we've had since, the beginning of 2020, we had to change up, how we go about doing this. So we're very excited and we're very proud to bring Trust at Home on your screen. Hopefully you can see kind of the lineup that we are we've secured and are taken here at the Trust. So we're very proud to partner with some individuals that are going to be our host. As you can see, Brooke Burke and Oliver Trevena is going to be hosting our virtual gala, and our virtual gala is called Trust at Home. Those that bought tickets will have a 4-course meal delivered to them to their house on Saturday, and they're going to hear much of the stories and advocacy around permanent supportive housing and Skid Row Housing Trust themselves. Who these people are that you see lined up are our political partners and advocates, some actor and actresses, advocates and partnerships are going to take the time, are going to take the time to share their experiences and advocate for us as well. Sorry, I got something caught in my throat. So we're really excited to bring this this virtual gala to you. Real quick history on PMC's 25th anniversary. As most of you know, Skid Row Housing Trust is 30 years old. It was born by our forefathers and our foremothers under the premise of housing chronically homeless individuals in SROs, which stands for single resident occupancy. Those were converted hotels for those that were working in the environment and had slipped into homelessness at the time. About 25 years ago, there was an awareness and an understanding that there was not a property management company or a support infrastructure that really knew how to handle high acuity and low acuity residents. So the Trust at the time launched their own captive property management company. 25 years later, jump to today, we're considered a large organization that serves a complex environment, and we have a pretty bright horizon ahead of us for the next couple of weeks next couple of years to share our expertise with those that are also building developments to serve the homelessness community. And again, with pride and celebration, want to make sure that we start bringing an awareness to all the things that property management company and the PMC does. So with that, I am going to turn it over to our COO, Antonio Mons, who's the moderator for our panel. And they're going to talk about the transition from, homeless to being housed, what that's all about, and how much it actually takes as it relates to support as well as teamwork to make that successful for the residents. So in just a few moments, Antonio will be on screen and he will take the panel and the discussion points moving forward from there.
Good evening, everyone. Can you see me on the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I still see a slide. Okay, no problem. So I wanted to welcome everyone to our presentation this evening. I'm thrilled to have my team joining me. So tonight we're going to be hearing from the people who helped make it all happen here at Skid Row Housing Trust on the property management side and making sure that our residents are having an amazing experience. You'll hear tonight from Daniel Hernandez, who is the Vice President of Skid Row Housing Trust Property Management Company. You'll also hear from Anthony Haynes, who is one of our peer advocates here at the Trust, Richard Navarro, who's a program manager, and also from Jessica Ferguson. So I'll tell you a little bit about each of them, and then we'll get into a few questions about them. So in no particular order, Jessica currently serves as the Health and Wellness Coordinator here at Skid Row Housing Trust. Jessica has been in the nonprofit sector for 15 years as a case manager serving high-risk adult populations, which include permanent supportive housing and subsidized childcare. Excuse me, Jessica has always believed that self-care is essential to growth, and simply put, health is wealth. She holds a bachelor's degree in psychology with a minor in sociology from Cal State University, Dominguez Hills, and has a certificate from Cornell University in women's entrepreneurship. She looks forward to taking her role here to new heights as she pursues her MSW. We're very proud of that at Cal State University, Dominguez Hills. Also, Anthony will be joining us. Anthony moved into the Abbey Apartments in 2009 after a long stint of homelessness and drug addiction. As a resident, he took advantage of all the resources, some of which you'll hear about this evening, that were available to the residents, and worked on himself. He is currently a peer advocate and staff here at Skid Row Housing Trust. Richard Navarro has been with the organization since 2000. He has 2.5 years, with a 2.5 year break in between. Throughout his journey with the trust, he has been in several different roles. While being a resident living at the Senator Apartments, he started off as a peer advocate, educator, promoting healthy lifestyles within the trust buildings, and then shortly after started a journey to becoming a case manager, providing support to the residents. He was also promoted to the Hopwa Housing Opportunities for People Living with HIV and AIDS housing coordinator, and then assisting homeless individuals getting placed into housing throughout the trust. He then circled back to case management role in the last 5 years, which he has been in that position, now the position of program manager. So he has a full breadth and scope of what it is to be a resident at Skid Row Housing Trust, move on to staff, and is able to thread that experience. And then finally, Daniel Hernandez, who is the vice president, is an operator who has more than 30 years experience in the field. He's highly credentialed and has been with the trust for the last year, bringing a wealth of experience in both affordable housing as well as permanent supportive housing and market rate housing. So when it comes to the housing landscape, Daniel Hernandez is a true operator. Daniel started out as a property manager himself many years ago. So he understands end to end what it's like to run a small property all the way up to the 27 plus properties that he currently has purview over, with over 1,800 residents. I'm very proud to be on the team with Daniel and look forward to you all getting to know each of them a little bit better this evening. So with that said, let's start with Jessica. Once a resident is housed, they are faced with a massive transition. Because of what we offer in person and virtual groups, can you talk further about how these groups operate and the changes you have seen from residents participating in them?
That is a great question, Antonio. So as we know, many of our supportive housing tenants are socially isolated prior to becoming housed due to the lack of resources, severe trauma, behavioral health challenges, long histories of homelessness that has caused them to be separated from their family, friends, and their support system. So our goal is to have a variety of groups that decrease the feelings of isolation, loneliness, and enhance social skills, life skills, and increase participation in mental and physical health services. Our wellness group helps our residents lead more positive and fulfilling lives and building new skills to learning more about health services. One of the groups that we have that are geared towards our new residents is called our Welcome Crew, and that is led by our peer advocate team, which is a great team because they have lived experience and their staff, and they know a lot about the area. So what they would do is kind of walk the residents around, show them, where they can go get food, how often they should check in with their case manager. They kind of reiterate some of the house rules, what's expected of them, where they can get money orders, and et cetera. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Thank you. You think I have the Zoom thing down by now, right? So my next question, I want to direct actually to Anthony and Richard. I'm going to start with Anthony first. As a former resident, Anthony, turned employee, can you talk about your experience transitioning to housing and the challenges a resident faced during that time? Also, Anthony, you're also a peer advocate. So what do you do as a peer advocate, and what growth have you seen for yourself and other residents participating in peer advocacy?
Good evening, everyone. A little bit about myself is I come from a great family, mother and father in the home, great upbringing, wonderful childhood. Part of it was a sheltered life. They sheltered me from what was around the corner. But one day I was able to get around that corner and see what was going on. And it was a group of people. And I became attracted to what was going on, street life. So I hung out with them more, and I turned away from family. 5 sisters, 1 older brother. So with hanging with them came drugs and alcohol. And a long story short, drugs and alcohol took me for a long ride. I wanted to get off the train a long time ago, but couldn't. Once drugs and alcohol get a hold of you, that's it. I was no longer able to make my own choices, but I was always able to keep a job. Throughout my whole life, I was a functioning addict until the disease got worse and I could no longer manage a job, no longer stay housed. So for over 15 years, I was in homelessness, and over 20-some years in my drug addiction. Until I was rescued by way of jail. I went to jail for possession of marijuana that is now legal. You know what I mean?
You say, what a difference a day makes, right?
Yeah. So after getting out of jail, I decided to make a change because that's not the lifestyle. That's not how I was raised. I became a part of that lifestyle, but that's not what my mother and father wanted for me. So once getting out of jail, I got on the wait list for Skid Row Housing Trust, and they called me one day for an apartment. So I came down and seen it, and I loved it. I just fell in love with it. Remind you, I had apartments in and out of my addiction, but none of them never felt like home. They just felt like a spot because I always had a group of people over, you know. But once I moved into this apartment at the Abbey, in the Abbey Apartments, it just felt different. And this feeling came over me because being homeless, I'm always in survival mode. Where I'm gonna sleep, how I'm gonna stay safe, what I'm gonna eat, you know, where I'm gonna get some clothes from. I need a shower, and so on and so on. So a year clean, I moved into the Abbey Apartment, and coming from the streets, you trust no one. Everybody gonna say they're your friend, but you can trust no one. So I knew I had to change. I told myself I'm gonna make a change, and I'm gonna change everything and start with my way of thinking. So they provided me with a case manager, and she was actually younger than me. So I'm thinking, what can you do for me? What can you provide or teach me? You know. But she has so much to teach me, and we build that relationship. I put my trust into. I just put all my trust into her, and good things began to happen. And she started volunteering me for things. So that's me getting out of my shell. I also been a selfish person my whole life. So once I got housed, I took advantage of the services and doing the outpatient drug program because I wanted to understand my addiction. And the drug counselor just suggested anyone in recovery to get a therapist just to see if there's anything else there that's a little deeper than what I'm looking at. And sure enough, case manager hooked me up with a therapist, and I went and seen her, and sure enough, there was a lot of issues underlying, you know, that led me to the drugs and alcohol. So it was very difficult because I'm thinking, okay, I have my own apartment, I'm good, you know, I'm on GR, I'm getting food stamps, I'm good, I made it. But first night was good for like a week. A week it was good, and then I also suffer mental illness. So I hallucinate, I see things that's not there, and and I hear voices, and I'm thinking I'm like 2 years sober now. What's going on? So me and the therapist worked that out, and I started feeling lonely. So I thought about my old friends that I thought was friends, the doing what they do, but I said, no, I can't go back to that lifestyle. So I had to start building new friends. So I started doing the groups that was provided within the building. And I started meeting good neighbors because the groups only attract positive people. So I was going to the groups, and I just started working on me more and more in the trust, seeing that they seen the growth in me, and they asked would I be part of the advocate team. And I didn't want to accept it because I just wanted to stay home and watch Maury. I finally got a place. I just want to watch Maury and Jerry Springer all day, but God intervened and said, no, I didn't get you clean and sober for this. So it's time to be a servant. Like I said, I've been selfish my whole life. So now it's time for me to start giving back. So I'm like, it's easy for me to tell what I've been through for somebody that's getting ready to go through what I just went through, so they'll be better prepared. So I accepted the challenge, and it's just been so much growth that comes along with it. I've been through so many trainings. I'm now a certified health navigator, certified peer specialist. First aid, certified first aid mental health. It's just so much growth to come with the job, and I'm just excited about what's to come in the future.
And we're absolutely glad to have you. Thank you so much for that. Richard, I'm going to ask you the same question. I'll repeat it in case. So as a former resident turned employee, can you talk about your experience in transitioning to housing and the challenges you faced during that time, and then how your roles and your different roles here at Skid Row Housing Trust have been shaped by your experience?
Okay, thank you, Antonio. Hello, everybody. So transitioning from homelessness to getting into our buildings, I was a resident of the Senator Apartments. I spent maybe about 6 months in transitional living. And throughout that time, I was so eager to try to find my own housing. Somebody turned me on to Skid Row Housing Trust. I went to the Center Apartments, and at that time, all you would do was go up to the apartment and get an application, fill it out, and they would process the application like on a first come first served basis. So I was lucky enough to get into the Center Apartments. The challenge, part of the challenge transitioning from the streets into housing was the running back and forth of having to get this paperwork signed, get this disability form signed. I didn't have a disability. I didn't have substance abuse, and I didn't have mental health. So those things were challenges on trying to get those documents signed if I didn't have any of the two. So luckily enough, I was able to move into a market rate unit that didn't require those things. But all the other paperwork, I had to get bank statements, I had to get my current ID. So there was a lot of stuff that we had to run through to finally get into housing. Then they would do their check to see if you qualify for the housing with the income limit. So having to wait that whole time can be very stressful. And I see how it's stressful for the population and the residents we serve, that they have to go through that as well. They have to go get mental health diagnosis. They got to go get income verifications. And that's when you're living on the street or living in transitional living, that's very stressful, because all you want to do is be done with that and get your own place. So finally, when I was able to move into the Center Apartments, I remember the first night, I was exhausted and tired of having to run around and coming back and forth to the property manager. So finally, when I got in, it was a very good place for me to kind of just rest my head and get some rest. And I see that same thing for our residents, is that once they come into our housing, it's like almost like a relief after being on the streets for so many days and so many months or years, that once they get into housing, it's a safe place and it's a good place for them to get a good night rest. I remember one lady who, as a case manager, when I housed her, she was so excited. I said, "What's the first thing you're going to do when you get into your house, when you get your keys and get into housing?" She said, "I am going to take a bath. I'm going to take a bubble bath." So she says she got into her housing that night. She filled up her tub with some hot water and just relaxed in her hot tub. So these are kind of things that our residents that we house, they look forward to these type of things, especially that safe place to just kind of relax and get a good night rest. Because I remember that night that I slept in that apartment, I slept very, very well that night. And the next morning, I got up. I was excited to start rearranging my room and putting stuff up on the walls and running some errands that I had to get done. But it was a very good feeling. So I could imagine. Well, I know that it's very good for our residents as well.
So as program manager, can you talk a little bit about what your role entails and how you help residents in the transition?
Sure. So my role as program manager, I supervise a staff of 6 to 7 case managers right now, and I bring them a lot of support with dealing with residents, helping them and encouraging them to follow our housing first model and our harm reduction model. I also ensure that they are very welcoming when a new resident is coming in, that they are just client-centered and always making sure that they're comfortable and they feel safe, showing them around the building, also giving them different resources throughout the community that will help them in the transition into housing. So it's really good that I'm able to support the staff in that manner.
Thank you. You know, and it's really important. I think you have, with your own experience, you understand a lot of the nuance that someone who is just looking at it from the tasks that have to happen in terms of transitioning residents, having lived it, you talked about just that feeling the first night and those kind of things. How does that impact when you're working with the client? Do you pull on your own experience?
I do a lot of self-disclosing. I know that some program managers or case managers are not good with self-disclose, but I use self-disclose as a way to connect with the resident that is coming into housing and share some of my experiences, because most of our residents, you know, they look at case management staff as like somebody higher than them. But you know, I'm just an individual like you. I came from where you came from, and that's the pitch that I use when I'm talking to a resident who may be challenging. I'm like, that's when I share my story, because it kind of brings them down to like, wow, you've been through the same thing I've been through. You know what it's like to put your key into that door and turn that door and open that door. You know what it's like. So that's a good feeling, you know, for all of our residents that are coming, especially when I'm doing, I've been involved in several lease ups. And the feeling of seeing somebody coming from this, like literally from the street and into housing and getting their key and falling to the floor and crying is a good feeling. And it makes me feel really good because I was part of that process. And I encourage my staff to be sure that they're very welcoming and very warm to the residents, because our residents that we house, they've experienced a whole lot. And if nobody has ever been homeless, they don't know what it's like to, where's your next meal going to come from? Where am I going to find a safe place to sleep? I might sleep under this light post, but maybe the light post light is broken. It's not on tonight. So now I got to find somewhere else to go. Being told no, being turned away by a lot of things. So I'm glad that I'm able to encourage my staff to be warm and very welcoming, and it has its challenges. I mean, we have our challenges, but we always get through them, and the outcomes are good.
Thank you so much for that, Richard. And as you know, we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Daniel, while we offer different programs and wellness services for residents, et cetera, property management has a large role in the resident transition as well. Can you share a little bit about why Trust Property Management Company was started?
Yes, as Lee opened up, approximately 25 years ago, SRHT launched an empathetic housing first value-based property management called Skid Row Housing Trust Property Management Company. During that time, there were no other property management companies that possessed the skills and competencies and the training required to manage a building that was occupied with low and high acuity residents that previously experienced chronic homelessness. Trust PMC has a 25-year track record of providing on-site property management services, customer service, maintenance, janitorial, and workforce development. In the spirit of providing full spectrum support coupled with minimal options to hire property management staff with the required skills, Trust PMC identified, hired, and has trained individuals with lived experience to transition into employees. Some of those individuals were former and current residents at the time, and the organization has built upon that premise to this day and still employs 27% of the individuals with lived experience expertise. That model has allowed for property management services to be delivered while simultaneously understanding the residents' needs. You're on mute.
Jessica, besides groups, you focus on wellness with programs such as Join In, holiday celebrations, and Resident Advisory Council, to name a few. Please explain what these programs are and what is offered to a resident.
Sure, I will start off with my absolute favorite, which is our Join In. Join In was an initiative that was piloted in 2012 to encourage our residents to participate in more groups. And what the data showed was that residents actually went to 44% more groups when it was time for Join In. So because it was so popular and residents were engaging in groups, whether it was life skills, arts and crafts, or health and wellness related groups, mental health related groups, or even recreation and socialization, we decided to do it annually. Fast forward to 2019, we decided to have our Join In twice. And the way that I set Join In up in 2019, the very first one, I wanted to focus on health and wellness. So we brought in community partners to let our residents know what resources we have in the area. So there was JWCH, mental health and physical health. We had UCLA School of Dentistry, AIDS Health Foundation, and others. They're just giving out resources and information. We also do fun raffles because, we like to give away stuff, and raffles are fun. So we'll do raffles anywhere from a $5 Subway gift card to a $25 Ralph's grocery store gift card, or even a toiletry basket, something that something that some of us may take for granted, but others in our community don't have access to. So those are like the kind of things we would like to give away. And it's not all about giving out prizes, but it's really helping our residents become their better selves, to reach whatever goal they have, and to also feel connected to their community. Another one of our health and wellness initiatives is our holiday celebration. So health and wellness, we coordinate the Thanksgiving dinners for all of our properties. So there's 25 plus properties. We plan the Thanksgiving dinner. So literally meal plan for each building. All case management staff are certified food handlers. Health and wellness would do the shopping for each building, create boxes per building. We would also get donations for like turkeys, decorations, and other things, because we would like to make it like a family Thanksgiving dinners, because a lot of our residents' family may not be close by, they may not be connected to them, or they just may not have access to them. Their family is their neighbor. So we would want the Thanksgiving dinner to feel like a Thanksgiving dinner. So staff would prepare an entire feast for them and sit down and enjoy a meal with them for Thanksgiving. Another one of our holiday initiatives would be our toy drive. We would get toy donations every year. And what we would like to do, because I'm all about making things grand and an experience, we would play holiday music, make hot cocoa, and pass out toys to our residents. It's not for them, but it's for, their children, their grandchildren, their nieces and nephews, that they may not necessarily have the resources to buy them toys, but they still want to show up for them. And so thankful to our donors, we're able to provide that for our community. Another one of our health and wellness initiatives is our Resident Advisory Council. I do facilitate that group, but when I say I'm silent, I'm there to listen, it's because it's comprised of residents. And who else could tell us what they need other than the residents? I can tell them what I think they need, but unlike Anthony and Richard, I don't necessarily have any lived experience. There's only so much you can learn in school. There's only so much that you can learn at work, but they have that real life, real world experience, and they're there longer than the 8 hours that I'm there. And I also see that the buildings, the energy is different from day to night. So they may know, like, we may need an evening coordinator on the weekends, or something is going on with the laundry. There's a coin shortage. Is there something that we can do about that? And the first question, when I talked about groups, one of the initiatives that came out of the Resident Advisory Council was the welcome crew. That was their idea. That's something that they wanted to do. And it was perfect. It is something that works. And I think it's a great bridge from, not being housed to being housed. Right now, one of the things that we're working on is how to incentivize our community, our residents, to vote, because voting is very, very important. And we also know that our community likes to be incentivized. So how can we do that to encourage them to vote and for their voices to be heard? Another initiative that we were kind of working on, but it kind of fell by the wayside pre-COVID, was to have a resident closet. We have all of these properties, all of these parking lots. In my mind, I'm like, we can have an outdoor shopping space for residents. We could get these we always get donated clothes, shoes, and things, and we'll have stuff, and philanthropy will send them to my office, and my office will be full of stuff, and then I'll solicit case managers to come get them. But what if we were to clean these items, get clothing racks, put them on racks, and open up a garage maybe once a month for people to come get items that they need for free? So that's some of the health and wellness initiatives in a nutshell.
Well, thank you for that, Jessica. And you always bring so much energy and passion, and it just shows through not only the hard work that you do, but the energy that you bring and the humanity that you convey to the residents. They know they have a champion in you, and we know that as well. So thank you so much. Daniel, what role does property managers play in supporting residents who are newly housed? Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Yes, of course. PMC works on the premise to show respect to all individuals. We believe that all individuals can and want to contribute to their fullest potential. Differences are valued. We inspire and enable people to achieve their high expectations, standards, and goals. For myself, I really feel at home here with Trust PMC. As you mentioned, I've been managing properties for close to 30 years now. When I first became a property manager, I inherited a property called the Zoo, and it was a market rate. It wasn't affordable. But I took it upon myself, without anybody telling me, to provide services and to work with school districts and to help our residents with ESL classes and cooking classes and just various resources for our community. And I was able to turn that property around, and that's what I believe in. And I think that that if we work on that premise, we're going to be successful. And so Trust PMC focuses on the resident experience. Our team values hospitality and customer service, because it doesn't really matter if you pay $5,000 in rent or $5 in rent. You still deserve that customer service regardless, and the attention that our team is supposed to provide. So our managers do not take details for granted. They have an understanding of the importance of making our new neighbors welcomed and comfortable. PMC employees with firsthand knowledge of the difficulties of moving from the street to a residence. So they help develop our policies and our procedures, and there's a big emphasis on that respect and dignity. That is always our first priority. Our managers will walk, as an example, they'll walk with the new resident to show them how a key works, because sometimes we take it for granted, but sometimes some people don't know how to use a key or forget how to use a key or how a stove works. And so they'll walk them through, show them the amenities of a building to make sure that they're comfortable. The manager will walk the new resident over to the support staff that works at the building so that they could get introduced to their case manager, peer advocates. And so those are the small items and details that most people would take for granted, but we want to make sure that we pay attention to those details. And I think that's what separates Trust PMC from other property management companies out there.
Thank you so much. You know, I'm a little biased because you're all on my amazing team, but I could not end this night without thanking each of you and saying what a wonderful job you do day in and day out, managing a large portfolio with 1,800 residents across 27 different properties, and doing that in conjunction with the Health and Services Department that also works hand in hand with you. So it is an absolute pleasure to be working with each and every one of you. And I thank you for taking the time this evening to come and share and give our community some insight into how we operate and what goes on somewhat behind the scenes and the journeys that some of us have taken to get where we are. So it is a great honor to have had the opportunity to facilitate this conversation with you this evening. So with that, what I'd like to do is turn it over to our team to facilitate any questions that we may have. So please hang around for questions, team.
Hi, everybody. This is Jet, and I have to say this was the best. Hi, sorry about that. That was my dog in the background. Anyway, there are no questions, but I have to say, Antonio, Lee, Jessica, Anthony, Daniel, Richard, you guys were so awesome, and it was an absolute pleasure and privilege to present this panel tonight. It was amazing to have the chance to share with our virtual community audience your passion and your expertise and help people understand more about a deeply complex issue that people often don't have an insight into. So thank you all very much.
Our pleasure. Thank you, Jet.
Thanks, Daniel. We hope to see you guys all at the last Thursday in October. We will be launching our year-end giving campaign, and we'll have tons of opportunities and different ways to participate, and we'll have our board members sharing about what they're doing, and we'll be sharing tools and tips and tricks about how you can help to move our mission further along. Saturday is Trust at Home. It's our first virtual gala. We're very excited about it. And we will be streaming it live on Facebook. So for anybody who didn't have a chance to purchase tickets but would like to hear and see what we talk to donors about, we hope that you will tune in. And we'll see you next month. Thanks.
Why do we love Car Shield?
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.